Look, if you're anything like me, you're doing a ton of research, trying to figure out what's going to work best for you guys, especially if it comes down to changing your whole life up and moving to a whole different state. And in today's video, guys, we're going to be getting into some of the best places to live here in Albuquerque, New Mexico in 2024. So grab your pen and your pad and let's get into today's video. If you're anything like me, guys, you're doing a ton of research, you're reading all these blogs, and you're trying to gather up as much information as possible. That way you can go and try to convince your wife on why this is a good idea. But with all the funny jokes aside, guys, you're probably not like me. You're probably a little bit better, and you are being very thorough about where you're going to be living if you are planning on moving down to Albuquerque this year. And I got to remind you guys that if this is your first time tuning in to the Living in Albuquerque channel, welcome. My name is Eli. Do yourself a huge favor and hit that subscribe and notification bell down at the bottom. That way you guys never miss out on any videos, because we are dropping videos like this every week talking about what Albuquerque and all the surrounding areas have to offer. Now, as much as I love doing these videos, guys, me and my team would also love to help you out with your real estate needs, because we are licensed brokers here in the state of New Mexico, and that number popping up on the screen is my direct line, and I am the one that answers all the calls, texts, and emails. So I'd love to help you discover what areas are going to best fit your needs when it comes down to moving to Albuquerque, New Mexico. So let's get right into today's video, guys, and talk about some of these great areas. Number one up on this list, guys, is going to be the Northeast Heights. Now, the Northeast Heights is going to have a ton to offer, especially if you have a family. The number one thing that I can tell you is that this area is super family friendly. They got well-maintained neighborhoods, excellent parks like North Domingo Baca, which is a massive park, guys. They even host Summerfest up in North Domingo Baca, and they also got a skate park. The skate park also has a firehouse on premise, which makes it super easy for the kiddos that are there every day. And if they end up getting hurt, then the fire department's right there to take care of those kiddos right away. But aside from that, guys, North Domingo Baca also hosts like regular food truck events, cars and boba, and all these different events that you're going to be able to enjoy throughout the year. And just be aware that that side of town does have a bit of more inclement weather because it is closer to the mountains. But for majority of the part, you're still going to be enjoying those 300 plus days of sunny weather. Talking about proximity to amenities, when you are living on this side of town, you are going to be close to the mountains. You're going to be close to Coronado, Windrock, and Uptown, which is going to be our three shopping centers that house everything that you need, from shoes, clothes, dining, all that stuff. And there's a couple good places within those shopping centers to go and have a good bite to eat, like the Melting Pot, Fogo de Chao, and the Cheesecake Factory. And if you want to have some fun, they also have the David Buster's and the Round One on that side of town as well. Those are just going to be the more popular ones, guys. They also have like boutique shopping centers all across the northeast side of town. So if you need just like one-off items or just rinky-dink kind of stuff, like hobbyist stuff like arts and crafts, or the little motorized things that you drive around, what are they called, the gas-powered RC cars, they have a store up on that side of town as well. And you know, anything else you can need and think of, it's probably there, from old record stores, fishing stores, hunting stores. I mean, you name it, it's all across the board. It's there for you guys. So anytime that we need something, us West Siders, we're always traveling to the Northeast side to get whatever we need, especially if it's a random one-off item that you can only find on that side of town. Very commercialized. So if you're okay with living in that suburban kind of urban area of town, and that's what you're looking for because you want to be super close to amenities, majority of the specialty doctors on that side of town, you may want to consider moving to the northeast side. Even though it is suburban and urban, you still get plenty of outdoor activities. You are going to have all the walking trails. I mean, for us, we love to go to Elena Gallegos open space. We recently took some pictures over there with our family, and it was super beautiful. I guess a ton of people do that because while we were there was other photographers there with other families just really taking advantage of the scenery and the sunset. And I got asked by a client the other day, when do I stop taking pictures of New Mexico sunsets? And I said never, because you'll never capture the same one, which was pretty cool for him. He was really, you know, like, man, that makes total sense. I'm super excited. And yeah, man, just to enjoy that aspect of being outside within like 10 to 15 minutes driving distance, sometimes even walking distance, is, you know, a good idea to get outside, get on the walking trails just with ease, not having to make a whole day or whole trip out of it. But when it comes to the housing, guys, because I got to interject that because we are realtors, and you are probably curious to know what the average price home runs on that side of town, you are going to be looking around $370,000 for an average house on that side of town. And they're very diverse, so you may run into some condos, single family homes, or townhomes. And a lot of people ask me, what's the difference between a condo and a townhouse? To be honest with you, I really don't know. They all look the same in some cases. I would assume that a condo is just a little bit smaller, but sometimes people just intermingle them and get them mixed up. But really, guys, just hitting the nail on the head. The Northeast side is going to be pretty affordable in the aspect that an average house in Albuquerque will run you $350,000. So this area is just a little bit more expensive, and it can get past $500,000. So just be aware that some of these areas, the closer you get to the mountain, the more you are going to pay for the property. But they have everything that you can need. They just don't have a huge, robust traveling system. But with all the side streets and all the roads that they have over there, it's going to be super easy for you to navigate. So keep that in mind, that if you are okay living in a suburban, urban, and affordable area, the Northeast side may be an area you consider. Number 2, guys, is going to be an area that is totally growing day by day, and it provides a ton of great value. Not anything like Walmart great value, but just in the aspect of you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck, basically, is what I'm trying to say. And some of the neighborhoods that we're going to be talking about are super desired. People ask me about them all the time. And this side of town, the west side of Albuquerque, is just steadily growing at a good pace. Not only because it's the only way that we can go, is going more west to create more subdivisions and stuff like that, but being that it's actually not that old, right? Places like Taylor Ranch, Ventana Ranch, and even Ladera Heights and Paradise, which are the 4 predominant neighborhoods here on the west side, are going to be, pretty young. You're talking about like they didn't start building these areas until like the 70s, or late 60s, and some even in the 90s. My house was built in the 90s, which, of course, yes, it's 20 plus years old. But considering that there's some areas across the United States where you're buying houses that were built in the 1800s, here on the west side, that's not going to be the case, guys. You may find something like in the south or the North Valley that was built in those later time periods, but not on this side of town. For the longest time, one big family owned a majority of the west side, and that was the Taylors. They lived off of Winter Haven, and we've done a video on this, just kind of giving you guys a history of what the west side was beforehand and how it came to be. So if you're interested on that, go and search the channel for our Taylor Ranch video. That way you guys understand a little bit more on how this place came to be. But for today's video, guys, this area is just super family friendly. You got a bunch of parks like Mariposa Park and the Ventana Ranch Park. You got the Taylor Ranch Park, which is a super cool park. It's pretty massive, and it has like 2 giant grass fields that are separated by a library. You got a dog park right in the middle, and it runs along a main road, so you can see all these cars passing by, and you got a pretty good view of the mountains from one of the parking lots, which we like to enjoy. We'll go and grab a bite to eat, park there, back up the truck and drop the tailgate, real old school like, and take the kiddos and have them just run around the park, the open space there, and enjoy themselves for a little bit, because being homeschooled kids, they really don't get out a lot. So you parents who homeschool your kids, you understand that just taking them out to a random parking lot at a good park within a family neighborhood that has a bunch of walking trails and family friendly dogs all around, which has been our luck that we've seen nothing but friendly dogs around, is pretty cool to enjoy and experience. So if that's what you're looking for, especially if you are going to be living on the west side because your kiddos are going to be going to Volcano Vista or Cibola, I highly recommend looking into either one of these 4 areas. Now, you also have some recreational things to do on this side of town. Not a whole lot like the northeast side, but you do have the petroglyphs and some trails tucked in all along these neighborhoods, and people trip out when I show them the maps of the walking trails, because they really connect the west side very well. And it's like you can get from the freeway all the way to Rio Rancho through just a bunch of walking trails that interconnect these neighborhoods very well. We like to totally enjoy these trails. Personally, we just bought a bunch of mountain bikes, and we get on these trails and it seems like they go on forever, and it's a jump from our house. It's not that far, guys. And a lot of the neighborhoods have this system of biking trails and walking trails built all around them. You'll see it when you're traveling through the west side, that there is going to be a ton of people just walking their dogs, walking with their kiddos, especially next to the Ladera golf course, because that walking trail is massive, guys. So if you want a good workout, highly recommend it. Minimal shade, so wear a ton of sunscreen and a nice hat, that way you don't get sunburned. And in terms of future growth for the west side, guys, we are seeing more subdivisions being built around the Nusenda Credit Union Stadium, which is a brand new stadium that was built a few years ago for the high schools to be able to play some football, have some good games there for the kiddos, right? Because these big entities understand the value that the kiddos bring, because they are the next generation that is going to be building these subdivisions and creating new opportunities for people on the west side. So they invested a little bit of money. Now they're bringing a lot more subdivisions to this side of town. And on average, you'll pay around, the low 400s for a house on this side of town in these newer subdivisions. So just be cognizant of that if you do want a house, you are going to be paying a little bit more. But with all the great incentives that they have to offer in these newer communities, you are going to be just fine. And you are going to totally enjoy it, because it's pretty much on the outskirts right now, being that there's nothing past that Nusenda Credit Union Stadium. Whoever's coming up there is either living up there or knows somebody that lives in the area and they're coming to visit. There's not going to be a whole lot of random people just walking through the areas. And aside from these newer subdivisions, they've also built a few 55 plus retirement communities. So if you are 55 plus and you're looking for an area to retire and you want to have all the amenities around you, like a community center, a pool, just fun stuff to do within your confined living space of your community, and you don't mind paying that extra dollar for it, we can also help you find some of those areas like the Overture and then Mirror Haven that they have up there off of 98th. And in terms of affordability, we just let you know what a newer house would cost. In terms of a resale house, you're looking around $265,000. The more northwest you go towards Rio Rancho, you can pay up to $360,000 for a house in Ventana Ranch. So really widespread, guys. Really giving you an idea of what you could potentially pay for a house. Newer houses are going to run you around that, mid to low 400s. Resale house, $285,000 to $360,000. So being very aware of your budget is going to help you guys in finding that great home. And then we can also help you craft what areas are going to fit your best needs based off of that budget. If you enjoy living somewhere where it's a little bit more urban, you're walking distance from all the good restaurants and the little boutique shopping, Nob Hill is going to be a great area for you guys, because they do have some great coffee shops in the area, some good restaurants. And if you guys have ever watched the Food Network, you guys will know that the shop down there is owned by a Food Network champ, and their food is just awesome. It's kind of like a breakfast and lunch spot, so you're going to have to get there a little early because they close kind of closer to the afternoon. But if you want to just grab a good coffee, Little Bear Coffee is going to be in the area. If you want to go vintage shopping, the Vintage Vault is also within walking distance of this neighborhood here. And people ask me all the time, what does an average house cost on this side of town? Because it has a ton of historical value. Believe it or not, if you do your history on Nob Hill, you'll realize that Nob Hill was kind of created to be this kind of like this upper echelon of Albuquerque back in the 70s and the 80s. And with all the diversity in houses up there, you have neighborhoods like Outdoor Park and just like the whole Nob Hill area that goes into the UNM area. You are going to get mid-century modern houses, some Adobe style houses, Southwest style, a little bit more modern on that Southwest as well. And it can run you anywhere from $400,000 to $450,000 and up, just depending on what all the amenities are around you, how historical your house is, and all that stuff. Now, in terms of walkability and lifestyle, again, like I let you know, it's super close in proximity to all these great restaurants. You also have a local supermarket that is within the neighborhood that is walking distance from all these areas, and a short drive to Whole Foods and Sprouts is also going to be super convenient. And then being super close to the UNM Hospital, Presbyterian Hospital, is going to be something that you can look forward to, especially if you got some medical issues that you got to deal with, or you like to see your doctor regularly for whatever reason, or if you work at these places. Living within Nob Hill, you can ride your bike to work. So if you do enjoy the cultural hotspot kind of thing, you enjoy being around all the events, and you really like just being in the middle of all the action, Nob Hill is going to be a great area for you guys. Last area up on this list, guys, is going to be an area that's a little bit more slower paced living, a little bit tranquil. big horse community and a one way in, one way out kind of deal in some of these areas, and that's going to be the North Valley. The North Valley is a historical area because it's been around a while, and when I talk to people that live in the North Valley, they really tell you all these different stories of how the North Valley came to be, what stores are still around from their time period from the 70s and the 80s, and stuff like John Brooks, which is super historical, guys, and they sell some good burritos. So if you ever find yourself in the North Valley, get to the John Brooks really early because the burritos sell out and they're pretty affordable too, and you won't get disappointed, I promise you guys. But living in the North Valley, you can see that the neighborhoods are going to be very family friendly. There is going to be some ranches mixed in there, and the diversity in houses, guys, you are going to see everything from these mega mansions to just the average 3-bed, 2-bath kind of house living situation with bigger plots of land. So if you're looking for that, you want a little bit more land, maybe we talk about the North Valley. And just to give you price points, you are going to be looking anywhere from $350,000 all the way past $1 million in this area, just depending on what you're looking for and what your budget has looked like. I'm sure that we can find something in this area for you guys. But getting back to lifestyle and everything that you could have experienced living in the North Valley is going to be convenience, right? Because you are still centrally located in the city, and you are going to be a little bit more at this kind of like Zen kind of peace mode, because not a whole lot of people are traveling down there. They're traveling through the freeways, through Montano, and more of the major streets. When it comes down to living off of like Rio Grande, it's super quiet. There's not a whole lot of street lights. Shoot, some of these areas don't even have sidewalks, believe it or not. And that's because the associations or whatever, the city, like to keep it that way, especially those ranchos. They want to make sure that the historical value is still present in today, especially with all the canals that people use as walking trails aside from the bosque trails, making it super easy for you just to pretty much walk outside your house and still get a good walk in. You'll see horses from time to time just because people use those walking trails and those canals to be able to travel from one side of the North Valley to the other. So if you don't mind paying a little bit more when it comes into that house that you're looking for, because you want to live in a place that's a little bit more historical, you want some land, you enjoy horses, and you enjoy being next to a winery if you enjoy wine, and you want to go to Los Poblanos to get a fine dining kind of like situation, we may want to talk about the North Valley. We talked about a lot of great areas in this video here, and now not all of these areas are in chronological order from best to worst or whatever the case is, and there's plenty of more areas in Albuquerque that are ideal for you to live in. So again, guys, I can't stress out enough how much we really appreciate you watching these videos. If you made it this far, that number popping up on the screen is my direct line, and I'd love to hop on a quick Zoom call with you guys just to go over all of this in detail, show you some other areas, talk about Rio Rancho, talk about Los Lunas, and if you're looking to move to the East Mountains, which is total mountain living, we can also show you some houses in that area too. Now, if you aren't ready for all that, if you look down in the description, there's a link to our website that allows you to search homes. Feel free to use all those resources down in the description. And if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out at any time, because I am the one that answers all the calls, texts, and emails. I'd love to help you answer all those questions that you're having about moving down to Albuquerque this year. But I'm going to go enjoy the rest of my weekend, guys. It's Thursday. You're watching this on Friday. We got a packed schedule this week. We got a couple of people coming in from out of town to look at some houses, making sure that that move to Albuquerque is going to run smoothly. So if there's anything that you ever need, feel free to hit us up. We'll catch you guys next week. Peace.